This is Generation Space, the official podcast of Air Force Space Command. In this episode, we're bringing together two future Air Force leaders and a pilot who helped inspire the character of Captain Marvel in the movies. But her current job is to recruit the next real-life Captain Marvel.
What's going on, everybody? I'm Master Sergeant Dave Salalitri, and welcome to another episode of Generation Space. This episode, our very second episode, is a special one. We have two cadets with us from the Air Force Academy and our leader of Air Force Recruiting Service. So why don't everyone introduce themselves?
Sure. I'm Cadet Maria Carter. I'm a senior at the Air Force Academy, and I'm majoring in astronautical engineering, hoping to go, I will be going to graduate school after I finish at the Academy, hoping to get my master's in aerospace engineering.
My name is Sean Suteja. I'm also a senior at the Air Force Academy, and my major is, again, also astronautical engineering. And after the Academy, I'm hoping to, I am going to be a pilot trainee at Vance Air Force Base.
I'm Brigadier General Jeannie Levitt, and I have the great honor of being the commander of Air Force Recruiting Service.
Awesome. Well, welcome, everybody. Thanks for taking a little time out of your day to be here. I know it was real rough. We had to get you out of class a little bit, so I'm sorry about that. It's like the modern day doctor's note, I guess. So, ma'am, tell me a little bit about recruiting service. What's the mission there? What's a day in the life for you look like?
Our job at Air Force Recruiting Service is to inspire, engage, and recruit the next generation of airmen. It's pretty incredible that in the process of doing that, we get to change people's lives. We have the opportunity to present paths that would have never been available to them otherwise. And so what we're looking for is people with strength, with moral strength, mental strength, physical strength, with grit, with determination to join our team and become part of our Air Force. And so our job is to inspire and engage that generation to then find those ones who are the right fit and bring them into our Air Force.
No, you've been in a couple of years, I'm going to guess.
A few, yes.
You talked about this generation, inspiring this generation. Talk to me a little bit about what you've seen just throughout your years in the Air Force of the young person coming in. How is the person coming in, the airman, the second lieutenant? What changes have you seen with them, just as far as their grit, or not even their grit, just what they bring to the table and who they are?
What I've found is that this generation, these cadets, they're different, but in a very good way. They grew up differently. I did not grow up in the world of cell phones or even the internet. Mm-hmm. My children are always surprised when they go, how was there no internet? How's that possible?
What did you do?
It wasn't a thing yet.
What were car trips
so
like?
The fact that they grew up in this world and they're used to, a different environment in terms of how they process communication and how they do some of these things, it's a different world. They were digital natives. They grew up in a digital world. I did not. I was more the immigrant. I came to it later when it became pervasive in our society. So the fact is, while the upbringing is different, it doesn't change the fact that they are incredibly creative, incredibly smart. And so if we can create that environment where we capitalize on those strengths, it's going to make us that much better of a force.
How do y'all feel about that?
So there's a great TED Talk, Simon Sinek. I don't know if you know the name at all.
Absolutely.
I do know him.
So
Yes.
he came to speak to us at NCLS, which is this kind of a character leadership symposium that we have every year. Mm-hmm. And he talked about what exactly that means with us having technology, and it's instant gratification. We are used to, when we want an answer, we look it up and we know it right away. And that's what's different about the generations is that older generations, they had to wait, for an answer, or they had to, wait to
check out a book at the library,
Right.
open up the encyclopedia.
And
newspaper.
What that means is that we're not staying in jobs as long because we're not seeing that instant gratification. So I think something important about the Air Force is that they have to fight to keep. Well, not really, because you have to commit, I guess.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
you have
kind of stuck.
You have you have to write your name to a certain number of years, but it's about exciting people to keep them in and keep them wanting to serve. And I think they do a pretty good job. Mm-hmm. I've been on many cool trips, and it makes me want to keep being in the service.
Well, and part of it too, I think, is purpose. Because a lot about this younger generation is they're driven by purpose. They want to do something that matters. They want to do something meaningful. And that's a place where we can really capitalize on the fact that what we do is very important. We are part of defending the freedoms that we hold dear in this country. We are a key part in national security. and preserving our freedoms. And so you couldn't get much more fundamental than that for purpose. And so if we really can capitalize on that, I think that goes a long ways.
So like as a senior leader, like what are things that you do or you try to do to like give these folks purpose, to make them feel like empowered? Because I feel like empowerment is a big thing too. What's stuff that we can do as like middle supervisors? What are success stories you've seen?
We need to create the environment where everyone feels valued, where they feel that their opinion matters, that their ideas are welcome, because so many times the person closest to a process knows the best way to fix it, because they're the ones that deal with the issues that it brings every single day. And so if we have an environment of dignity, of respect, of teamwork, of mutual support, where people go, you know what, I have an idea, and they feel comfortable raising their hand and raising that idea, I think that's really powerful. And if supervisors at all levels create that environment and listen to their airmen and give them the opportunity to make positive change, it's very rewarding.
So I got to hear Chief Wright the Chief Master in the Air Force, talk a little bit about the frozen middle, and that's it's usually the second or third like line of supervision. And he says, hey, we have these folks that give us great ideas who are working close to the subject matter, but sometimes we feel like we're like, whoa, pump the brakes a little bit, don't take this idea straight up, like let me filter it. And then that happens enough where our folks, they feel like they don't want to come to leaders with ideas. And he said, we got to get rid of that. And I think that's just such a culture, not a culture, like I feel like it's been going on, but it was so great to hear a leader say that. I don't know, just being like a tactician kind of deal, I feel like that was awesome to hear. Like, what are the things that you guys have heard like at the academy, or things you've seen? Have you been able to come up with like, innovation's a fun word, but like it's a good thing. Have you had opportunities to really like own a project or make a change?
Yeah, I mean, for us too, since we're astro majors, we got to work in the FalconSat program where we're delivering an actual Air Force asset with like a technology demonstrations platform satellite. And for us too, we've actually been able to come up with our own ideas when it comes down to small projects. Like we're both on the sun sensor team as well as the range safety team. Mm-hmm. And so we were actually able to contribute a lot to this one Air Force asset. And we had a lot of autonomy when it comes down to, thinking of new ways to get through these projects. And so I think our department has empowered us in that way and has actually kind of led our motivation because of the fact that they let us do whatever we need to do to get the job done.
The FalconSat program, and that, I mean, I'm a little fuzzy on it, but that's a program where you actually get to fly satellites, don't you? I mean, you really get to learn about space and geosynchronous orbit and things like that. Mm-hmm. But you're going to be a pilot, but now you're learning about space. I mean, that's such a culture change, I feel, to get such great space education at a young part in your career. What's that been like? Has that been?
It is very groundbreaking. Not only do we fly them, we also build them. So a lot of this, I know of a satellite that we've put up that once the mission was over, it was still running, and so we passed it off to the space community to use for training. So that was Vandenberg and that was West Point. And they're using the satellite to train their own space cadets. So it's super cool what we've been able to do with these satellites. Since we are an amateur program, I guess, because every year we pass off this capstone project to another class. Some of the parts are built by like the Air Force Research Lab and just some other, we kind of gather help, but we are ultimately kind of in charge of designing it and launching it and then flying it at our own ground station at USAFA.
And and I think it's really cool because, I mean, even though like I'm going to go be a pilot, and even then we have some astro majors that are also going to be pilots, they're going to be engineers, and they don't necessarily are all going to work in space, but it's always good to learn about space because it's kind of our new frontier. It's our new domain that we need to, I guess, have superiority in. And so it's really nice learning all that stuff now, getting on the ground floor and kind of getting to where space is soon like it's going to be the next emerging domain. And so it's cool, even though as a pilot, like I get to understand all the satellite communication that happens with my plane or the GPS or whatever it is. And it's cool for both of us because it's an opportunity, again, just to learn how important space is later on in our Air Force career.
Yeah, I mean, ma'am, having flown a couple missions here and there, I mean, I feel like what he's saying, I don't know if that was something that was being said that long ago. The fact that he's, you just connected, the flying community and space community. That's a really cool thing. I'm curious to hear a little bit about all the missions you've flown. Has space how has space been a factor for you, or what happened if space wasn't there and like the enemy was just like, sorry, fighter pilot, you don't have space anymore? That'd be pretty impactful, I'd imagine. Or
Space is foundational to everything we do in warfighting. And for the longest time, we've thought about it in the support function, right? We've thought about the fact that there's GPS, the fact that we have satellites that can see many things, all of these things that space provides. But quite honestly, space is something we must protect. I mean, this is not a matter of if other people weaponize space, it's just when these things happen. And so space is so foundational to what we do as a country, not just as a military, but as a country. We were just discussing the fact that if there weren't GPS, I would not want to be driving in any city right now.
Terrifying. That'd be terrifying.
No one knows how to pull out maps. I did that back in the day.
What's a
right.
map?
So it's foundational to not just the military, but to our society. And so I'm very excited for them because all of the opportunities that are in front of them, how much I think space will change in the next 10 or 20 years is going to be pretty incredible to be part of that.
Well, man, what would be like your piece of advice, let's say, to these folks as they kind of go through their career, or even let's say like a young cadet who may be a pilot or maybe a space operator, they don't know yet. What would be your golden nugget to them?
My advice would be to do the very best at whatever job you're doing right now. You always want to be open to new opportunities, and whenever a door opens, rush through it and seize the opportunity. But don't spend so much time saying, I want to do that, I want to do that. Do your absolute best at the job you have right now, and that will open up doors. That will create more opportunities.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So I don't know if you all realize this, but you're kind of sitting next to someone who's pretty darn famous with, have you heard of Captain Marvel by any chance?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe the Avengers, maybe ring a bell a little bit. So ma'am, I mean, that was kind of that. What was that like to have, to see like the path you've paved, almost, be a foundational element to a movie that just broke, blockbuster records. What was that like?
I really appreciate the fact that Disney and the Marvel team cared about being accurate in their portrayal of their character. Because the fact is, right now, the knowledge level in society is kind of low in terms of the military. They know of us, they appreciate us, they thank us for our service, but they don't necessarily know us. They don't realize what we're like. And so their sources of information are typically the media or Hollywood, and the media tends to focus on the negative stories because it draws more attention. Hollywood has their choice if they want to be accurate or not. There's no requirement. They're selling movie tickets, right? And the fact that Disney and Marvel cared and they reached out and wanted to be accurate in their portrayal of a female fighter pilot was pretty incredible. And it was fun. It was neat to see. The directors came out initially out to Nellis Air Force Base, where I was the 57th Wing Commander at the time. And we had some great discussions, and then they said, hey, can we come back? Can we bring the lead actress? And they brought Brie Larson out.
No kidding. Oh, my gosh.
And so it was great. She spent a few days with us, and we talked to them about all kinds of things. The specifics, the mechanics, like how you get in an airplane, what you do in the airplane, how you move, all of those types of things, but also what it meant to be an airman, what it meant to serve. And then we went ahead and put her up in the back seat of an F-16 so that she could experience firsthand what it felt like to be in a high-performance fighter aircraft.
You didn't take her up?
I did not. The Strike Eagles didn't have any extra lines, which is what I flew. So I flew her in the back of an F-16 with Kazi, who is a female. She was a female aggressor pilot. She has since PCS'd, but she was at Nellis at the time.
They did take her up.
Oh yes, she flew.
How funny.
Yeah, right.
How funny.
Right. What did she say? Did you talk to her afterwards? Was she feeling okay? Yeah.
She did great. I've always just said she did great. And then when we were in the audience when she was on Jimmy Kimmel right before Captain Marvel was released, and he asked her, and she said, "Well, I threw up a lot." But she enjoyed it, and it was a wonderful opportunity for her to experience what it was like firsthand.
I'm glad they seeked out that experience to try and get
And they cared. They cared about having an accurate portrayal, which we really appreciated because there was no requirement to do that, but they wanted to do that. And I really like the fact that they gained a huge appreciation for our airmen and what it means to serve.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. That's awesome. We're getting a little close on time. We have, I think, room for maybe one more question. And you're pretty much in action. I got to be part of like an action figure. Does that make like day-to-day job, does it make it boring, or do you have your own mission that kind of really gets you excited? Does this still, I mean, you've done the most exciting things to do almost in the Air Force. How do you feel about your current, what you're doing right now?
Absolutely love the recruiting mission. I knew nothing about it. I was pretty unfamiliar with recruiting before I came into this job. But the fact is that inspiration part, the engaging with the American public and inspiring people to dream big and work hard and follow their dreams. If I do that, I figure it's better for national security, whether they join the military or not. If they're inspired to do something great with their life. And the fact is, many of them learn about the Air Force and all the opportunities and want to join our team. And so it's incredibly rewarding. When I was with the Thunderbirds in my last job, the autograph line, people would ask, like, why do you still serve? And my answers were too long, so I had to shorten it. And so I'm like, okay, I've got to boil this down. So what I came up with is the reason I still serve is because I get to do amazing things with amazing people every day. And so I love the recruiting mission.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, is there anything that, I know we've talked about a lot, is there anything you two want to throw out there, or anything that you want to just get out there?
Big question.
Yeah.
Reader's Digest version. Let's pretend it's Twitter, 240 characters.
I think I'll say the Air Force has definitely given me a lot of opportunities to excel and to kind of show off like what I can do. And I wouldn't have gotten that anywhere else. I actually owe a great debt to the Air Force because, it's sent me overseas. It's given me the opportunity with FalconSat. It's given me lots of things to look back on and say, wow, I actually did a good bit in my life. And so, again, I think that's kind of the essence of the Air Force, that gives you a lot of opportunities to lead and to do cool things.
Great.
Yeah, and that opportunities piece, which I really appreciate. You got to jump on those. You have to. When they're offered to you, like, they're so cool. I've also, gone to Asia to look at their space operations there and just do some really, really cool stuff with the Air Force. And it's been great.
And
No
so what
regrets.
I want them to do is I want them to go tell their story.
Okay.
I want you to go back to your hometown, tell your story, and recruit more like you.
That's awesome.
Absolutely.
I think a future of them will be all right. Right?
Absolutely.
Cool.
Security.
Well, I want to thank you all for your time so much. Thanks for taking some time to sit down and have this conversation with one another. So, well, that's it for our second episode of Generation Space. I'm your host, Dave Salitri, and tune in next time. Thank you. Take care.
Thanks for listening and watching, and don't forget to leave us your feedback in the comments because we want to know what topics you want to hear about. For those who have already done so, we hear you. You want more specifics on how exactly we operate in space. Well, the launch of another GPS-3 satellite is coming up soon, and we're going to be getting into all the details on what that takes, so stay tuned. Also coming soon, a look at space futures. Generation Space is a production of Air Force Space Command Public Affairs. The Generation Space theme is by First Lieutenant Tyler Whiting. Our audio engineer is Jacob Mosolf, and our producer is Second Lieutenant Kristen Shimkus. For more info on Air Force Space Command, visit our website at www.afspc.af.mil. You can also follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. Thanks for supporting the airmen who aim higher. They used to say the sky's the limit, but for us in space, there is no limit.